repurposing, you've got like this wealth of dozens and dozens, a year or 2 years worth of content. Like, why let it like sit dormant? What up, potty people, and welcome back to Clipped. I'm Eric, your host, and Clip brings you podcast production tips, resources, education, and conversations with my potty pals, all aimed to help you become a better, more efficient podcaster. I'm on a mission to help you start, grow, and monetize your show. Pumped to be back here and pumped to share some content with you guys. In this episode, I'm actually going to be talking about repurposing old podcast episodes. And by doing that, you're going to be able to like dip into something that you already talked about. So it's likely that you're probably like more familiar with it or comfortable with that content. And by making little tweaks and updating things or adding more value by giving like a new take on it or a different opinion can be a lifesaver. One, because if you can't come up with something that week or you're kind of stumped, you can revisit some stuff and you have a wealth of like content to pull from. But additionally, it just gives people like the chance to hear that new perspective. And maybe your listeners don't listen to every single episode religiously, or maybe you recorded like episode 10 over a year ago and you've gotten a bunch of new followers in the last like 3-4 months. And so maybe they even haven't heard that old content. So to them, it's new anyway. All right. So there's 4 ways that I think you can repurpose old podcasts. And the first one is by creating compilations. And if you don't know, a compilation is when you compile like multiple clips from old episodes. So let's say you've had several guests on in the past, and they're all talking about how to optimize YouTube, how to get more subscribers, more views, how to create better and more engaging videos. Well, if you had 3 or 4 guests in the past that had similar or even different takes on how to like dominate YouTube, you could pull like a couple minutes from each of those guests and cut those together into one compilation episode. And this works with whatever you're talking about. If you're talking about finance or if you're talking about sports, cut together some clips from people that are talking about the same thing. It could be the same perspective again, or it could be a different perspective. But by doing that, you create like this powerful episode from insights from past guests that are likely like experts in their field. And you're going to create like this ultimate powerhouse episode. And you could record a little bit of commentary at the top. Hey, in this episode today, I am giving you insights from 4 of my past guests. I clipped together some really memorable moments from each of those episodes. And I'm presenting you with like the ultimate take on how to grow your YouTube or how to dominate your YouTube. And that can be said, again, across all industries. It just takes a little bit of editing and maybe like a new intro kind of introducing what the episode is going to be. And boom, you've got yourself a fresh new podcast episode that's powerful because you compiled the best clips from these guests. You're presenting it in a way where you've got these experts. And it's an easy way to repurpose an episode. And it's not a cop-out because you're giving, I don't know why I keep thinking that, cop-out, because I think some people think, oh, you're lazy, you're repurposing. No, but you're creating like something new. It's a new take, it's a new piece of art. And if you do it correctly and you pick the right clips, it's going to be an awesome episode. It's going to add a lot of value and new perspectives, and it's hopefully going to be inspiring to people. So the compilation is the first way to really crush it with old episode ideas. Okay, and the next one is just straight up updating old episodes. And so the example that I'm going to use is something that I did over the winter break, and that was I took 2 episodes, one on the best podcast microphones for podcasters, and I did an episode on this over a year ago, I want to say. But I recently bought a new microphone, the Samsung Q2U. And so I recorded like 2 or 3 minutes talking about that microphone. And then I plugged it into my list from that episode of the best podcast microphones. And then in the intro, I recorded like a little snippet introducing that I've got like a new microphone that I want to talk about. And then boom, got a fresh take there by just updating an old episode. Didn't even require that much work, but it's action-packed and it's actionable. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast all around. That was episode 82. So if you want to check that out, it's just a couple episodes ago. The next next was I repurposed an episode I did on the Amazon Influencer Program and how you can make money reviewing Amazon products. And with this, I didn't even actually record a new intro. I liked the intro that was in there and I liked the content from the episode and it's still relevant. All I did was shorten it. I cut out a couple things where I got lengthy with my speech and kind of like rambled on. And so I just cleaned it up a little bit. And the intro, I listened back and it was still relevant. So I used it and boom, I repurposed that episode with a fresh take, being that it was like a little shorter and more concise. And so less like filler and more just talking like concisely about what I wanted to talk about. And that was also episode 83. So you could check that out. You can update older episodes like that, cut them, maybe take a section from the back and put it up to the front. Or listen, if you rambled on like me, cut that out, shorten it, and just give like a tight, nice perspective. And super easy to do that. So that's updating old episodes. Love that. The next is by incorporating listener Q&As. Maybe you had a listener who asked you a question about a specific thing that you talked about in an episode, and they wrote you or they sent you a voice memo and they have a question about it. You could use that to elaborate on what you said and to answer the question and add more value. And it just creates that personal touch. People love when like if they reach out to you and you actually get back and you're personable and you're really trying to help them. I mean, that's what this is all about, right? So let's say somebody had a question about microphones, or you do a sports show and they have a question right now. The NFL playoffs are going on and you had a take like a week ago and they want to know, like they want you to elaborate, or they want to know what you think, or maybe it is a financial question, whatever it is, answer that question, get their permission. Maybe you could even use, if it's a voice memo, use it on the air. I always love when people do that. And so if you're looking to answer listener questions, and you should be, you can answer their question on air, and you could even cut like a snippet from an older episode. If they had a question about like episode 53, can you elaborate on what you said about XYZ? Cut in the voice memo of them asking that question, cut in a little bit of that episode where you talked about what they want to know about, and then elaborate on it. Great way to update old content. And then lastly is guest follow-ups. And I had a recent experience with this that I thought was really cool, not for my podcast, but for a podcast that I went on with my buddy Evan Phillips. He's the founder of Podpeak, P-E-A-K. He runs a podcast production company up in Alaska. He does a ton of awesome podcasts for various like outfitters, outdoor companies, mountain climbing type shows. But in any case, he had been following me and he noticed that I was releasing these creator reports where I would record a video and talk about how much money I made that previous month just from creating content, not from my production business, but strictly as a content creator. So I went on his podcast, and I'll link to it in the show notes. And he asked me for like an update on how that's going, how much money I've been making, why I decided to share my financial journey from content creation with everybody, and kind of just some backstory on that. And so he used that as an opportunity to ask me about it on his show. And I think if you've got a podcast and, one of your guests a couple months ago told you that they're going to run a marathon, you had someone on and they shared like a goal with you, or a New Year's resolution or whatever the hell it is. A couple months later, follow up, do a little snippet where you're like, hey, Joe, just wanted to check in, want to see how that marathon training is going. Have them record something on their own, or you could record like a little conversation and you could share that, and you could share the part of the episode where they talked about their goal. And there you go. Boom. You've got like a fresh take. And I think people love just being updated. People like to hear about behind the scenes or like personal lives. And I think it just like reiterates that we're all people, we're all here to connect. And the more that you can share about someone else who your listeners heard on your show and you've got an update, people love that. I personally love that. I love hearing stories and behind the scenes and inspiring goals and things like that. So it's just another way that you could repurpose old podcast episodes. It just gives you fresh ideas where you can keep like the overall vibe of your show, but you just add some spice here and there. And then again, if you're fully out of ideas, or if you're stumped, or if you're sick, you're like, oh, well, my voice is shot, I'm coughing, got a headache, but I can use this old episode. And if I just tweak it add some value by recording a short snippet to give a fresh new opinion or an update, I can easily, create a new episode even though I'm not feeling well, and I don't mean to try to make it about that. Like, you use it only when you're like, don't feel like creating a new episode, or you don't feel like recording. So you're just going to like give your audience some old thing that's like easy. It's a rerun. It's like garbage television reruns. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that, like, if you do it strategically, thoughtfully, and with intention, you can bring fresh new life into your podcast. And I think that'll be a win for you. Repurposing, you've got like this wealth of dozens and dozens, a year or 2 years worth of content. Like, why let it like sit dormant? Get into it. Look at your data, look at your analytics. What episodes were popular? What topics do people want to hear about? You can use your download analytics as like the data to reach from, to see like what worked in the past, and then update it. And don't just let all that stuff sit. I mean, there's so much good information that you can use and that you can update to just create a better community and a better overall listening experience. As always, keep listening, keep engaging, and keep creating. I'm out.